Level 1, the dreamer. You don't know anything yet, and somehow that feels like the best part. You buy the uniform before your first lesson. 4 epaulettes, 0 flight hours, 0 simulator hours. You haven't even sat in a cockpit. But the shirt is ironed. The epaulettes are on. You take a photo. Your mom frames the enrollment letter. Your cousin posts about it. 3 relatives you haven't heard from in 2 years suddenly text you, "Congratulations." You tell everyone you're going to be a pilot. You say it like you already are one. At this point, you've spent more money on kneeboard accessories than actual flying. The E-6B flight computer is still in the packaging. You don't know what it does yet. Ground school starts. The instructor writes the atmosphere on the board. Troposphere, stratosphere, layers of air you've flown through your whole life as a passenger without ever knowing their names. Then carburetors, then density altitude, then the phonetic alphabet. You practice it alone on the drive home. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. You say it like it already means something. Then one day your instructor walks to the whiteboard and writes 4 letters. ATPL, Airline Transport Pilot License, the highest certificate a pilot can hold, the one that puts you in the left seat of a commercial aircraft. He underlines it once, says nothing, moves on. You write it in your notebook, you circle it. You don't know yet what that circle costs, but eventually, you will. Level 2, the first touch. Tuesday morning, overcast, 12 knots of crosswind. You don't know yet that 12 knots is nothing. The pre-flight takes 30 minutes because you check everything twice, then a third time. You read the checklist out loud even when the instructor is standing right there. You climb in, you do the run-up. The engine sounds like it's trying to tear itself apart. Your instructor says that's normal. You taxi to the runway. Tower clears you for takeoff. You push the throttle in, and then you're in the air, not because it feels smooth, not because you did it perfectly, just because the airplane lifted, and now the ground is getting smaller, and something in your chest does not know how to process that. At 2,000 feet, the instructor hands you the controls. The Cessna drifts left. You overcorrect. It drifts right. The horizon tilts. You are sweating through your brand new aviation shirt. 3 seconds later, I have it. Flat voice. Controls back to instructor. That evening you sit at your desk and write your first logbook entry. Date, aircraft, route, total time, 0.9 hours. You stare at that number for a long time. What nobody tells you at this stage is that every pilot you've ever admired once had a first lesson like this. The captain on your next holiday flight? He had a 0.9 in his logbook too. Same awkward inputs, same tilting horizon, same doubt. You book your next lesson before you even leave the parking lot. Level 3. The Imitation Game. Something changes after your 3rd or 4th lesson. There's a voice in your head now. It sounds exactly like your instructor. You run checklists before bed, not because you're studying, because you physically can't stop. Carb heat. Primer. Mixture rich. Flaps up. Your housemate catches you whispering it to the ceiling at midnight and decides not to ask. You start watching cockpit videos at 1:30 in the morning. You pause takeoffs right at rotation and replay them over and over. You study crosswind landings, stall recovery, engine failures. In the simulator, you're smooth, calm, precise. In the real aircraft, your left rudder is still 2 seconds late, every time. This is the stage nobody warns you about. The stage where wanting it badly stops feeling like enough. You start wondering, do I actually have what it takes? Or am I just someone who wants this more than he can do it? You watch other students. Some seem to get it faster. One guy in your ground school nails radio calls from day one, and you think about that for 2 straight weeks. But here's the truth. You don't lack talent. You lack hours. Your instructor's coordination comes from thousands of repetitions. You have a few dozen. That isn't failure. That's math. Your solo endorsement is closer than you think. You just don't know it yet. Level 4. The first alone. The day comes without ceremony. You do 3 circuits with your instructor. Nothing feels different. Then he says, taxi back. You park. He unclips his seatbelt, opens the door, steps out and says, 3 times around the pattern, you've got it. Then he walks away. The airplane is suddenly lighter. You feel it immediately. The climb rate is different. The controls are different. Everything you've been practicing now has to work with nobody beside you. On final, the runway looks wrong. Too short, too far, too quiet. You fly the numbers anyway. You land, not beautifully, not gently, but safely. Then you do it again, and again. 3 landings. Alone. When you taxi back, your instructor is standing on the ramp with his arms crossed. He gives you one nod. That nod contains more information than most conversations. You call someone after parking. For the first 45 seconds, your voice is not fully under your control. You will deny this forever, and that's when everything changes. Not because you became a great pilot that day, but because you proved something to yourself. You can be alone in the sky and still make it back. That proof stays with you. Level 5. The money mouth. Nobody really talks about this level before you get here. Then the invoice arrives. $1,400. For 40 hours of private pilot training. You knew the number existed. You had seen it online. But seeing it printed changes the feeling completely. You sit down and do the math. Private pilot. Done. Instrument rating, more. Commercial license, much more. Multi-engine, CFI. Hour building. Applications. You add it up 3 times. The answer doesn't change. Somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000 before the airlines even enter the picture. You sit with that number for days. And here's what that number really means. It means this career filters people by persistence, not comfort. Every pilot you admire either paid it, borrowed it, worked through it, or all 3. The money is not the dream, it is the price of entry. A brutal, specific, deeply inconvenient price of entry. You start doing strange math now. How many deliveries equal 1 flight hour? How many extra shifts equal 1 lesson? How long your future costs if measured in weekends? On the 5th day, you open your logbook. 47.3 hours. Then you flip back to the first page. The ATPL circle is still there. You close the book. Open the scheduling app. Book the next lesson. Level 6. The instrument cage instrument training begins and humbles you immediately. They give you foggles. Your outside view disappears. No horizon, no landmarks, no visual comfort, just instruments. And one hard truth, your body lies. It tells you you're climbing when you're level, turning when you're straight, stable when you're drifting. The instruments tell the truth. Your senses do not. And this matters, because spatial disorientation has killed pilots in perfectly good airplanes. So you learn to trust the panel over instinct. 40 more hours of holds, approaches, intercepts, procedure turns, missed approaches. You descend toward runways you cannot see. You break out at minimums. You decide whether to land or go around. You make the wrong call. Then another wrong call. Then one day, you make the right one for the right reason. That's the shift. You stop thinking like someone who is trying to control an airplane. You start thinking like someone who is responsible for a flight. Flying doesn't get easier here. It gets deeper. Level 7. The plateau commercial hours. The logbook is thick now. The entries blur together. You fly, you log, you study, you sleep badly. You wake up and do it again. Nothing feels exciting. Nothing feels broken either. Just repetition. This is the level where people disappear. Someone in your cohort quits. A short message in the group chat. Taking a different path. Good luck, everyone. No explanation. Nobody asks. You understand that message more than you want to. You are deep enough in the process to be tired, but not far enough to be finished. And that middle is dangerous. Because progress becomes invisible. There is no celebration for 67%. No applause for another 2.1 logged. No one outside aviation understands what this phase costs. But something is happening. Your hands are learning things your mind no longer tracks. Trim adjustments, power corrections, control pressures. Tiny decisions made before you consciously think them. It doesn't feel dramatic because it isn't. It's structural. This is where skill goes underground, and that's why so many people misread it as stagnation. It isn't. It's construction. Level 8. The check ride chair. The examiner shakes your hand. Neutral face, neutral voice. A person professionally trained to give away nothing. He flips through your logbook like it isn't 250 hours of your life. Then he asks, "Tell me about a time a flight didn't go as planned." You prepared 15 versions of this answer. Your brain offers none of them. There's a silence. Then something honest comes out. He writes something down. The oral lasts more than 2 hours. You miss a question. He gives you room to recover. You do. Then comes the flight. Steep turns, Emergency procedures, landings, corrections, breathing that feels slightly optional. You finish. He says, "That's a pass." That's it. No music, no crowd, no dramatic speech. You shut the aircraft down, walk to your car, sit in the driver's seat, and for 6 full minutes, you do nothing. Eventually, the feeling that arrives is hunger. Your victory meal is a gas station sandwich. The certificate sits on the dashboard while you eat, and somehow, it feels perfect. You look at it for a long time. Then the next feeling arrives. This still isn't the end. Good. It's not supposed to be. Level 9. The real education. You become a flight instructor, not because it was always the dream, because 1,500 hours is the airline minimum, and instructing is how many pilots get there without paying for every hour themselves. Your first student is 17, nervous, overcorrecting exactly the way you once did. You hear yourself say, "I have it," same tone your instructor used on you, and in that moment, the whole journey folds back on itself. Teaching does something flying alone never could. It exposes every weak point in your understanding. You explain something 10 times. On the 11th, you say it differently. Suddenly the student gets it, and so do you. Now you're in the right seat. Someone else's decisions matter, but so do yours. Their safety is partially in your hands. That thought used to terrify you. Now it feels normal. That's how you know you changed. Because this career was never only about flying. It was about becoming the kind of person who can stay calm, make decisions under pressure, and keep thinking when things stop going according to plan. Flying was the classroom. Judgment was always the subject. Level 10. The left seat 1,500 hours. You type it into the airline application. For years that number was a mountain in the distance. Now it's just a box on a form. The interview happens in a hotel conference room under fluorescent lights. They ask about CRM, conflict in the cockpit, bad decisions, good decisions, failures, judgment, and suddenly every piece of the journey returns, the 0. 9 in your first logbook entry. The solo pattern, the invoice, the plateau, the student who finally understood on the 15th explanation, the mornings nobody saw, the doubt you never said out loud. All of it was preparation. You just didn't know what you were building while you were building it. The lead interviewer closes the folder. "We'll be in touch." You walk out into the parking lot. It's bright, warm, quiet. Your hands are steady. 8 days later, the offer arrives. You read it once, close the laptop, open it again, then read it 4 more times just to make sure it still says what you think it says. It does. The beginning orientation day. A flight academy somewhere. A kid walks in. 18 years old. Brand new aviator watch on his wrist. Fresh notebook in his hand. Big future in his head. He sits in the front row. Writes the date at the top of the page. He doesn't know about the check ride silence. The logbook math. The money. The plateau. The gas station sandwiches. The self-doubt. The small victories no one else understands. He doesn't know how many versions of himself he'll have to become before he gets there. But he will. In 3 years, maybe less, maybe more, he'll watch another new student walk in exactly like this, and he'll think, "I remember that." The instructor enters. The room goes quiet. The kid clicks his pen. It starts again.